Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon to learn about managing your active business in your IXACT Contact CRM. Happy to be hosting this webinar on a very specific session. If you've attended any of our more general overview webinars, you've probably heard me say, here's active business. This could be its own webinar. I'm not going to talk in detail about it. And today we are. So that's why we're doing this. We want to make sure that everybody has full visibility to all the different awesome features within their IXACT Contact account. And we know that the active business is often one that just doesn't get used as much, or that we need to have a little bit better understanding of, so that you can use it to the best of your advantage, the best of making your business easier for yourself. So we're going to go through the active business area of the system today. I'm Shannon. I'm the sales director here at IXACT Contact. Will be the voice behind the keyboard today. If there are any questions throughout the live session, I do have Vicky on the line with us, and she will be in that Q&A box. If you find that questions box in your GoToWebinar dashboard panel, you can pull it out, pop it open. If there's any questions, let Vicky know, and she'll either answer you live, or we may actually speak the questions out and speak to them actually on screen by being able to demo what you're asking about. For now, just give Vicky a little hi, hello, let her know that you're there, and she'll be happy to chat with you as those questions come up throughout the session. And without further delay, we're going to jump right in. There's a ton of information to cover today, and we're going to, of course, talk about how you can better manage your listings and buyers with the help of IXACT Contact. So in doing that, we'll be entering some listings and buyers, showing you how to assign activity plans. So some of you may be familiar with activity plans for marketing, right? Those marketing drip email, essentially, campaigns. But there are also task campaigns. There are listing and closing activity plans to help you stay on track with all of the tasks that you have to do from the time you get a new listing all the way through until closing, and then even all the way through that closing process. And we're going to talk a little bit about tying this active business area of the system into goal setting. So we actually want to be able to help you achieve your GCI goals. So without further delay, let me get right into the system. You're all familiar with your IXACT Contact dashboard. And just to note, the area we're talking about today is this active business area of the system. If you click on that in your system and there's nothing there, I'm glad you've joined us today. If you've tried to use it and you're just not sure that you're doing it right, and that's why you've joined us today, also glad to have you on the call, and we'll go through those details. If you've come today because you have a specific question, feel free to throw it in the chat right up front, and I'll try to demo to some of those questions as we go through today. We'll keep this pretty interactive. Not going to take the full hour, I don't think, unless we dive into a whole bunch of questions, but we do have the hour if we need it. So active business. When we look at active business, we actually want to start from the contact record. That's where the contacts are actually, or the properties rather, are actually entered. So I'm actually use our friend Sal Andrews here as an example. And of course, on Sal Andrews' profile, you may have entered his home address. It may have a move-in date, if it was a past client, if you helped him buy that property, or it can just have the home address or not. You don't actually have to have the home address, but great option if you do, especially if they've been a prospect for a while and you've entered their home address because, hey, they have a home. At some point, they might sell it. So always enter the person's home address as soon as you learn of it. And then this properties tab is where we're going to go next. So you've got a contact record. On the properties tab in that contact record, you can buy or add a property. We're just going to add a property for now. And we're going to add a property similar to something like Humboldt Drive. So when you add a property, you have the ability to change the ownership status. So they own it, they once owned it. So for instance, owns it means they own it right now, right? They could potentially sell it, or they are selling it. Once owned would be, for instance, if you're adding in past clients and you want to add in their properties from previous transactions, you can absolutely do that and just store the properties on their contact record. So the most common use is going to be that they own it right now, they could sell it, or they are selling it. And you choose from the drop downs What type of property is it? What's the building type? We're going to call it a house. What's the ownership? It's freehold. And where is it located? We'll go with whatever neighborhood here in the Toronto area. So a little bit of detail, just very, very basic about the particular information. If you click and check off primary address and set it to their contact's home address, this is where having the home address on the contact record pulls that information over. So you don't have to enter it again, right? Now, if it's a completely separate address, you will have to enter it, but if it's their home address that they happen to be selling, then you can easily just pull that information directly over. If it's their property that they currently live in, check it off so that you know it's their primary residence. And if you know the purchase details of when they bought the property, it's worth entering them in here, right? Because if they bought it in, say, 2018, then you've got a pretty good idea of where the market has come since that time frame. So let me just go back to 2018 here. Approximate purchase date, somewhere in May of 2018, right? What they purchased it for, and what their taxes, mortgage, etc. are. So just little details that you might know. Sale details will come later, and then any additional property details that you'd like to enter. So none of these things actually affect entering the listing and following it through the transaction. These are more details for yourself. So you can choose to enter these or not. It's a good idea too, because you get an idea of what the lot size is, property size is. Oh, I guess the property size is the actual square footage. Number of stories, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, parking, has a driveway. Just again, sort of like equivalent to what you'd be entering into the MLS, but it means when you glance at this listing, you have all the details handy. So for instance, if you were talking to a buyer and you're looking at your list of active listings, you could say to a buyer, all of the details of the particular property. You can even upload an image of this particular property. And then I'm going to save it. And now we've got it twice, but you get the idea here. Is we have Humboldt Drive, it's in Markham, we own it, and it was entered by, it's going to show as yourself. If you're in a team, you may see these property summaries entered by other team members, right? So other team members may be also working with different clients throughout the system. If you're the team leader, you will see which team member is entering the property. And then if this is a property that is now a listing or a potential listing, you would click this handy little button to create a listing. And when we click create listing, what it's going to do is take us to the active business area of the system and get us to fill out some additional fields. So because I already have Humboldt Drive here already created, I'm just going to click view listing, and it will give you a status of active by default. If it's a potential listing, you can toggle it back. If it's a listing that you hadn't entered previously and it's already actually sold, then you can put in the sold status. Slightly different sold statuses in the US versus Canada. This is a Canadian account. So you'll see slightly different terminology that corresponds and aligns better with the different terminology depending on where you are located. We're going to make it an active listing for today. This person is the seller, and that's who we're representing. Seller is the contact record that we brought this over from. If it's repeat business, you can check that off. By checking off this repeat business, if some of you will note, there's a little widget on your dashboard that gives you the value of your repeat business. So if you check off this repeat business checkbox, the system actually has the ability to log that into that widget on the dashboard. So it's just giving you more visibility to it. You can put in your asking price, your listing commission, and so on. So depending on where you are, now we're in Toronto, we're going to look at prices that are sort of more in this range, a little bit crazy, but that's where we're at. Of course, the MLS number, if you've already entered in the MLS, your listing commission, and of course, just putting in the percentages will actually give you the dollar value at the far end of that. And then of course, your listing start date, we're making this today because we're entering it today. And I've put in a 3-month expiry. So we put this on a 3-month listing, 90 days. put it in your calendar, set yourself a reminder. Maybe you want a reminder 2 weeks before you actually get to the expiry date. Details like the locksbox number, listing web page. So if you've done like a single property website, or even just the listing, on the MLS or where the listing is on your website, great idea to put this here. Again, it's just all becomes information for you that's then more easily shared with a potential buyer. Any notes about the property, maybe you've got, it needs to have an electrician come in. There's certain things that need to be done on this particular property. You can absolutely add those into the notes. And then of course, reminders for other key dates. So you choose what these other key dates are. Maybe you want to look at maybe a potential price adjustment. If you're getting this far into the listing a month later and it still hasn't sold, maybe we need to look at adjusting the price. Maybe it needs to go down. Maybe we're having too many, having a bidding war and it needs to go up, whatever the case may be. So you can adjust that. And of course, all of our property details, address, etc., have populated over. And once I save our listing, we then have our listing record. So if I were to go to the active business area of the system now, you'll see all of your listings, and here's the Humboldt Drive listing that we were just working with. So pretty easy to enter the listing. You start from the contact record, you go to the properties tab, and you enter the listing. So now what? Now what do we do with that? I know a lot of you've gotten that far and then thought, okay, now what? So we're gonna go, what's the now what? So you have a couple of things you can do here. You can add activity plans. So assigning an activity plan to the listing. Some of you are very familiar with our marketing campaigns, those activity plans that are drip email. A listing activity plan, and we've created one for you, which is a 90-day listing plan. Now, if 3 months doesn't make sense in your current market, you can edit and customize this. So you can either customize it on the fly as you're assigning it, or you can go to the activity plan section of the system and actually customize the plan. There may be tasks that you want to include that we haven't included. There may be things that we've included that you're never going to do. You can adjust those plans accordingly. So I'm just going to choose our 3-month new listing plan and say continue. And similar to when you're assigning a marketing campaign, the system will display the list of tasks. In these cases of an activity plan for listings, all of the activity types are to-dos. So this is literally your transaction checklist. It's a list of things that you're going to do from the time you get a listing all the way through until it closes. So there's 90 days worth of tasks. There's 51 items here. And what this means is when I assign the plan, it's going to create all of these tasks, and those tasks are going to show up in my task list on the date that they're actually due. So no more worrying about if you've got 3 listings on the go, woohoo, but don't worry about what you have to do day to day. Don't be awake all night trying to remember your little mental checklist of everything you have to do. Let the system be that checklist for you, so it will make it that much easier for you to follow through. So assign and create selected tasks, and in this activity plan section, it's just going to display for us that we've assigned this campaign. Great. Under the activities section, you can now see all of these different tasks. By the way, if you're part of a team, you can assign tasks within the activity plan to other team members. So there might be a member of your team that does the putting up of the for sale sign. There might be a member of your team that does the entering in the MLS. If it's not you and you're part of a team, you do have the ability to assign those specific tasks to other team members that are helping you out. So again, once you've put up the for sale sign, now I've got this listing today, so I have my reminder to put up the for sale sign tomorrow, to enter it in the MLS tomorrow. But hey, if I ended up doing it today, I can check this off ahead of time, complete the tasks, and then any completed tasks will show up in my completed task list. So ignore all the ones below here, demo database, so we're reusing this listing again for a demo, but there's the one we just checked off. You can check it off ahead of time. Just because the due date, right? Just because the due date is a specific day doesn't mean you can't complete the task in advance. We've got our task list, and just in terms of where those tasks live in the system outside of that actual listing, every day on your dashboard, you'll see the tasks that are due for that day. on your dashboard. You will also see them in your task list. So anything that's upcoming. So you can see here we've got all of our Humboldt Drive task lists. Whoops. We've got all of our Humboldt Drive task list in our task list. So if you had multiple listings, this overall task list is going to have a lot more in it, right? So a lot of tasks will show up here, and that's why on the dashboard, the little dashboard widget will show you just what's due today. So we haven't had anything due today, so just makes it easy to just roll it up. So you're not worrying about that whole overall global task list. You've got just what's due today in your task list. And of course, if you know you did something for this listing today that was ahead of schedule and your task shows up tomorrow, then when the task shows up on your dashboard, you can just check it off, right? You can say, oh, I put up the for sale sign last night because I knew I was going to be in the area, so check it off. It's just already done, but it's just keeping you on track and make sure that none of these key events that are going to help you market and list and market and sell this property, nothing's ever going to slip through the cracks. And by the way, if I go back to our main profile page of the active business here, the other benefit to having those tasks is that there is actually a service report. And what this service report does is it pulls a list of all of the events that have happened for this property. So you could actually provide this to your client. You can send it as is, just as a report. You can clean it up and make it, pretty, whatever you want to do. But you have a listing service report that has any of the property details. It will have any of those tasks that have been completed, right? So any of your completed tasks. And it also has your showings and your related parties. And that's where we're going to get to next, is our showings and our related parties. So look at all the tasks that have been checked off. Being able to just show your client, hey, we're at 2 months in, here's the things that we've done to sell your property, and here's where I think we need to go next, right? So just giving you that little bit of information. So showings, notes, completed tasks, etc. If I go back to my active business, we're going to talk about those showings. So we've got your listing information. We've talked about activity plans and where those activities then live. And we're going to talk about related parties and showings. So showings, pretty straightforward. When you have a showing, you actually can add the showing, which would be, you can have a type of showing. And I just clicked on the modify list here. So you can actually add different types of showing, different verbiage. If there's something here that doesn't read the way you would like it to read for how you think about showings in your business, you can customize this list. So whatever the different showing types are, right? I'm just going to put in a general showing. If the agent is an agent that you already have in your contact list, then you can just say, if the showing agent, buyer's agent is someone else and they're already in your contact list, you can select them. You can add a new agent, right, into the showings, because I haven't had this agent show one of my properties before, so I can enter that person in. Oops, Remax, there we go. Whatever their phone numbers are, etc. So you've got the contact information, and if you want to, you can add this person into your contact database, meaning if they bring another buyer to show one of your properties, then you already have them in your contact list, and you can just do this select from contact list. So the system makes it easy to transfer this information and create a contact record, or maybe you're the showing agent and you don't need to enter any of the additional information. And what is the date of the showing? I'm going to say it's scheduled for Monday. And what time of day? Oh, that's a little early for showings, maybe at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and any details pertinent to this showing. So once you save it, it shows up then in your list of showings in chronological order. So soonest first. So obviously, demo database, we've got some older ones, and our most recent one is here at the bottom. I've seen lots of good comments. I think Vicky's on top of those, so I'm going to let her carry on there. And the next thing I'm going to go to is our related parties. And related parties for listings are parties that you have some communication with. as part of the listing process. So just like you're seeing here, lawyers, home inspectors, mortgage brokers, electricians, etc. The easiest way to add a related party is just click add related party. And if you, again, if you know you already have this person in your contact list, then you can just select them. You can add a new person, and just like with the agent you were adding, you can create a contact record for them right away. And you want to assign them what their role is. What is their business? What is their role in that listing process for you? Or you can select them from your frequently used related parties list. This I'll get to in a second. This is a short list of the professionals that often are involved in your transactions in some way. They have some interaction with you as part of a listing. So how do we get those there? That's the big question. Well, if I go to one of our contact records and I see that someone has their work details entered, you have the ability to put them in your business directory, which is just a searchable directory of different businesses. And you have the ability to include this person in your frequently used listing related parties list. So it's a simple checkbox when you're entering a particular contact. So once they're in your listing related parties, you have that easy ability to pull up your listing, add your related parties, add your related parties without having to go through your whole contact list. You can just pull up that short list of any of the people that are involved in your transaction. So very quick, easy way. So you've created this really robust contact record or listing record within the system without having to do a lot of work and effort, right? Like the activity plan gives you all of those activities. The listing information is all held in one place, and you have the ability to add reminders for really any key dates throughout the process of this listing. So it is entered manually. I know that's often a lot of people's question is, hey, you can enter the MLS number. Why doesn't it just pull it from the MLS? We don't have a direct connection to the MLS. All the boards have different data systems. They don't feed those out generally to CRMs. So not impossible. It is something that we'd like to work towards in the future, but at present, you do have to enter the property information in order to have the property entered. It doesn't have the ability to connect with the MLS, unfortunately. So that's often a question. So I'm going to shift gears just a little bit and just talk about entering a buyer. So if I go to our friend here, Daniela Radnov, and I go to the properties tab for Daniela, I can see that, oh, maybe Daniela is not a good example. Let's try Andrew. I thought Daniela was my example, but perhaps not. So, hang on one second. My apologies. Let's use Jennifer. So on Jennifer Miller's properties tab, you can see that we've checked her off as a prospective buyer, meaning she's in the active business area under prospective buyers. So making it easy to find her there. So again, you would enter in the buyer agency expiry date. This one's a little bit too far out. Let's go forward to today. Maybe not today, to end of June. Put it in your calendar, and it's going to give you a reminder 15 days before. So you know that this buyer is under contract until the middle of June, towards the end of June. What's their price range? What's your expected commission on that? And then, of course, what are they looking for? What are their buying preferences? And then as long as this little checkbox is checked off, they end up in the active business area of the system. Let me just save this so that she updates. Perfect. So in the active business area of the system, we've got Jennifer. She's looking for a house. This is her price range, the expiry date of the contract, and there she is. So those buying preferences, by the way, are also searchable. So if you've entered, things like groups and status and different ways to categorize contacts, you'll know that those are all searchable. You can also search based on buying preferences. So it's a great practice that when you have a listing, then you have the ability to search for anyone who's looking for something like that property, and then be able to send that listing out to those people that are looking for something in that specific range with that specific information. So again, from the contact record, just go to Jennifer here. In the properties tab, she doesn't necessarily have any properties. Maybe she's a first-time buyer, but you enter the buying preferences, you check off the little checkbox to put them in your list as a prospective buyer, and that's how they land under the active business under prospective buyers. So prospective buyers are buyers that are still looking, right? They're going to showings, you're sending them things, they're sort of trying to make that decision of exactly, you know, when they're ready to make an offer. When they do make an offer, you click this button, buy property, and you enter the address of whatever property it is that they've made an offer on. And once you've entered that information, they end up here as an active buyer. So it means that now they essentially become a transaction, right? Prospective buyers, these are people that are looking, you're working actively with them to help them find that dream home. When they buy a property, you put in the address that they're purchasing, and the system will ask you, essentially the same questions that it asks you for a listing. What is your commission on this particular listing, right? So your commission, the listing start date, expiry date, and so on. So just, making it easy for you to put in a buyer, have them make an offer, and then track that whole process all the way through. So for something like this, where they've purchased a property, you might actually put in a closing plan. And a closing plan would have all the tasks. So similar to the listing plan, a closing plan is going to have all the tasks that you would need for that closing. So it's just closing out that transaction, making sure nothing falls through the cracks. Same thing applies, they go in your task list, and day by day, you'll have just the 2 or 3 tasks that have to be done to make sure this listing closes out. So very easy to assign that, clicking assign, and same thing applies. All of the activities end up in your activities tab. Now, because our listing date is in the past, they're all showing up in red. So anything red is overdue. Of course, yours are not going to be overdue. They're going to be current and relevant. And same thing applies if there's related parties, etc. You can add in that information. So I see a lot of people asking for the recording. I know it's a lot of information in a short amount of time. We will definitely have the recording sent out after the session today. Really what we wanted to do today was show you not just the click by click like a tutorial video, but be able to sort of speak to the how and the why, and just keeping yourself organized and on track by putting these different items in place, putting these transaction checklists in place that are going to keep you organized, and then how that relates to the system. I have one last item that I think is really cool to show you, and it's, as we talked about on my little presentation slides, about managing your listings towards your GCI. So actually entering goals for what you want to make this year, and then letting the system help you track towards that. So some of you may have scrolled down your dashboard and found this little closed business widget. And if you haven't entered anything in active business, it's going to say 0 in most of those areas, or even just a dot. It actually won't even say 0. It just has a line because there's no goal to report against. What this closed business widget is doing is it's taking your goals and it's taking your active business, and it's showing you, based on your current activity, where you're tracking towards the goals you've set for yourself. So this really cool widget is contingent upon not just setting the goals, but then actually logging the activity. Just like when you log your prospecting activities towards your prospecting activity goals, we talked about that a few weeks ago, you have to log the transaction activity, right? Your current listings, your buyers, in order for the closed business widget to be able to do that calculation for you. So when you click on goal setting, the system asks you a series of questions, and the questions are things like, what do you want to make this year? And if you don't want to go back in time and enter all of your listings back to the beginning of the year, start with today, right? If you've never set up goals in the system and you don't want to go backwards, just start with today. I'm going to start my goals today and work forward. It will ask you, what's your average commission per transaction? And what percentage of your transactions are seller listings? And that, of course, by default, The other percentage adds up to 100 for buyer sales. So if you're more of a buyer agent, right, this may be flipped. What percentage of your listings become closed transactions? So how many of your listings actually work all the way through to you earning a commission on it? What percentage of your listing presentations result in a listing? And hopefully it's more than 30, ours is maybe a little weak. What percentage of your buyer presentations result in a buyer sale? And then it asks you all of your activity goals. So if I go back just to our goal setting section of the system here, I'm going to ignore the prospecting activity goals for today. But what we just effectively put in was answers to a series of questions that were sort of more percentage based. And then what the system does is it actually works out the numbers. It means if you want to make $180,000 in GCI this year, you have to do 44 listing presentations in order to get 13 listings, and you're going to close all 13 of those. Yoo-hoo! You have to do 15 buyer presentations to get 5 buyer sales. And then as you actually enter those listings and enter those buyers and work through all the to-dos in your transaction and closing checklists and close those transactions, that's how the system is able to roll up that data into this nice little dashboard widget and show you exactly where you're tracking year to date towards those goals. So whether you're falling behind on listings, you're way ahead on buyers like we are, the system has the ability to reflect that. So able to set those goals and then utilize the active business area of the system to help you keep track of those things along the way. Just worth noting while we're here is the activity plans, and you'll see the marketing plans right at the top. The listing and closing plans are below. And I encourage you to take a look at these before utilizing them for your active business. So if you do 3-month new listing plan, you can edit these. You can actually go in and change the description. You can change the due date, make it your own. There's going to be things in this checklist that we've included that you're thinking, I don't do that. Or there's things that we've not included that, maybe just in your business practice or in your local area are common tasks. You can add those things in. So really make this your own. And that way nothing falls through the cracks. You're not, 5 days behind on something that you should have checked off in your checklist because the system is reminding you continuously to do these key little items and keep you on track and keep you focused. So ultimately, what we're hoping is that as you utilize the system in this way, it frees up more time, right? You don't have to make this big thing every day to make yourself organized. The system is sending you these little reminders. It's keeping you organized. It's keeping you on track just day by day, couple little things for each listing, and off you go about your prospecting again. So it's going to free you up to have more time to get more business and ultimately more free time, right? The more the system can do for you in the background, the more free time you're going to have to run your business and ultimately, of course, to just have a life outside of the business. So let me just look back at our Q&A here and see if there's any questions we have. How would I change those items? Good question, James and Dunn. I'm really good at speaking to things and waving my pointer over them, but I don't always click on them. So if I click into the listing plan and I actually want to change, maybe I want to change entering this in the MLS. I'm going to click on it. I can change the description just by typing in this line, and I can change the due date, right? Maybe I don't enter it in the MLS 2 days later. Maybe I do it the day that I get the listing, right? So if it's 0 days after the listing start date, that's the day you get the listing. You can change when you want reminders, right? So you're going to get a task reminder in your email. And you can also choose to move weekend activities to before the weekend or after the weekend, just so you're not getting those reminders throughout the weekend. So any of these can be customized and edited. You can add your own tasks, which will essentially give you a blank version of what we just looked at, where you can add in additional tasks, right? Like you may want to say, post on social media, because I know that's a big thing now. Make it a to-do. I want to do it 1 day after the listing start date. Send me a reminder, and I want to do it before the weekend if it's going to happen to fall on the weekend. So again, if you get a listing on a Friday, then the system is going to actually send this to you on the Friday, not the Saturday. So just making it easy for you to stay on track. So I've entered that in, and there it is, post on social media. So we've added in an additional task. So I think that is all of our items for today. I know it's a lot of information in a short amount of time. We will send out the recording via email as soon as it's available after today's session, and it'll also be available on YouTube in our webinars section, webinars playlist on our YouTube channel. See a couple of other questions. Do you get reminders of an activity to your email? Yes, if you've checked off send me a reminder, you also get reminders sent to you via email, not just showing up in your task list. Will you demonstrate how to upload documents? Good question, Karen. And there's sort of a second part to your question there. Will you demonstrate how to upload documents for distribution? We don't have a document sharing platform within IXACT Contact. If you are uploading documents, let me just go back to Humboldt Drive here. You would click on documents and you can add the document. And this is more document storage rather than document sharing. So you have the ability to add these documents, making it easy for you to access them all in one digital place when you need them, but it doesn't actually have the ability to share the document or distribute the documents. I hope that at least answers part of that question for you. And let me just see if there's any other. Vicky's done an awesome job with you guys on the questions here, so I know that you've got to most of them. And I think we've gotten to everything. So I'm going to sign out. A couple questions on the documents. Format of document that can be uploaded here. I'll show you what the details are. The document cannot be larger than 10 megabytes, which for most average documents, like if it's a Word document or a PDF, that's a huge size. So that shouldn't be an issue. And the upload file types are essentially, they can be zip files, they can be PDFs, image files, PowerPoint presentation files, Excel documents, etc. They just can't be larger than 10 megabytes. So it makes it easy to get those documents. And again, just easy to store everything all in one place. So I'm going to sign off. I think we've covered everything. I know it's a ton of information. Actually, I'm not going to sign off. I do have one more little tidbit for you, just in terms of getting assistance with this. So I know there was a ton of information covered today. As you know, IXACT Contact has a ton of learning resources. There are tutorial videos. You can call our support team. You can chat with them whenever you need help. Specifically for active business, there is a little tutorial video. So if you actually go to the active business area of the system, there's a little tutorial video that you can watch just by clicking this tutorial button. And there's also our help guide. And the tutorials that we provide, both for prospective buyers and for listings are very step-by-step. So, little less overall picture, a little more, linear step-by-step how-to. So do encourage you to check those out if you're looking for just a little bit more instruction on the items that we covered today. And of course, call support if you're ever stuck. And for those of you that have joined us today, if you're loving IXACT Contact and your colleagues don't yet have a CRM, or they're not or they're not using a CRM, or they're just, they've asked you, like, how do you manage your business so well, then tell them about IXACT Contact. And as long as they put your information in the how they heard about us, you get 2 months free. So every referral gets you 2 months free. So it's just a little tidbit about our referral program in case anybody wasn't aware that we have that, but great ways to get your colleagues on board, help them with their business, and also get a little kickback for yourself. So thank you to all of you who joined us today. There is a quick little survey after the webinar ends. We love your feedback. If there's other topics you'd like to see in future webinars, do let us know. And we will be happy to accommodate that. We're always looking for new ideas for upcoming customer webinars. So Thanks again, everybody. We're going to sign off for today. Thank you to Vicki for being awesome in the Q&A, and we look forward to hearing from you.